price right so we're doing well business-wise, but also be affordable for people as well.
Yeah, and that's the hard part because you don't control that, right? Inflation, government, whoever you want to point the finger to, the companies you're buying it from, they decide to go up, and you have to navigate those waters and educate the consumers like, hey, it's not us. All right, welcome back to another episode of Let's Grow Podcast, where we interview the top businesses around town to just kind of hear their stories of how they started, where they're at, and where they're going. Today, we have Jennifer Rhead with Rhead Plumbing. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. All right, so let's dive into Jennifer Rhead and Rhead Plumbing. So where are you from? Tell me a little bit about your background and things like that.
So we are originally from Wisconsin. We've been in Texas now for about 7 years. My background is in school counseling and psychology, so completely opposite of what we're doing now.
Yeah.
And then I started into the plumbing world almost 3 years ago.
Okay. And Joe, your better half.
Yes. So he has been a plumber ever since high school. So as soon as he graduated from high school, started in the plumbing world and is now a master plumber. So he's been doing it for 25 years.
Yeah. So originally from Wisconsin, and I know you, so Green Bay fans.
Yeah, so I am. Joe's a Giants fan.
What?
Yes.
We're stopping this podcast right now. No. Okay. We'll get over that. All right. So what brought y'all to Wylie, Texas, of all places?
So my family all randomly relocated here.
Okay.
My youngest brother was stationed at Fort Hood, and then my other brother was accepted into the Dallas Police Academy. Okay. And then my mom got a job at Texas A&M, their School of Dentistry in Dallas. So they all randomly came here, and we had been visiting all the time, and we just decided we liked the weather better. Joe was tired of working outside in the winter in the snow, and decided to take his journeyman's test here. And once we did that, we decided to move.
So how was it that first time? Because he got away from the snow, but then he got introduced to the heat, the Texas heat.
I think that first summer was hard on him, but now he's used to it. Now he's used to those hot days working out in the sun. And he always says he'd much rather be doing that than like under a trailer house with a foot of snow with it minus 20 degrees. Yeah. So he much prefers the heat.
The heat. Yeah. I've lived here all my life, and the Texas heat still gets me every now and then. Like, you never get over it. But I cannot do cold. Like, we went one time to New Mexico for a trip, and we thought we were going to see snow, and we didn't. So we went up to the mountains where the snow was, and it was like, nah, we're good. Let's have fun a little bit, and then let's go back to our hotel room and warm up.
Yes.
And so, yeah, I'm not a cold. Like, when our weather here hits 50 degrees, I'm like, man, screw this. Let me have my jacket on and everything. And then I see people from up north. They're like, this is great weather and shorts and stuff. And I'm like, no, not me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Dallas, but Wylie outside of it, how did you find Wylie? Because Wylie's just a small town.
Yeah, so at the time, my parents were living in Rhead.
Okay.
And like my one brother was a police officer in Dallas at the time. And so they were familiar with the area. And so we had talked with my mom and trying to figure out, what school districts were good in the area. And she had mentioned that she'd heard really good things about Wylie, and we just took her word on it, and it was close to them. And so we just picked Wylie.
Yeah. And how do you like it so far?
We love it. It's a good, I think we came from a very small town in Wisconsin, and Joe has always lived small town. And so we still had that feeling here, even though, Wylie has everything you need and it's grown so much since we've been here in the past 7 years. But it still has that small town feel. You still can go places and know people, and has just that good feel. Yeah.
And the school district's great.
Oh,
right?
yes.
I mean, the school district's great, top ratings out there. The culture, the small town feel, everybody knows everybody. Like, I was telling people, like, I can go to the store and I'll probably know 5 people every time I go. They're like, hey, there's the mustache guy, or hey, that's Matt. And I'm like, yeah, just call me mustache guy, sure, whatever. But no, we definitely still have that small town feel here as we grow as a community. And I think it's the values behind our community, right? We keep them as a small town feel. So Joe's been in plumbing business forever, right? How did Rhead Plumbing get started?
So when we moved here, Joe had worked for the same plumbing company ever since high school.
Okay.
So coming here was the first time it was going to be new. And so he had started working with a bigger company to see if he liked that.
Yeah.
He quickly realized that wasn't for him, and then ended up working for a smaller company here in Wylie. And it got to the point where we just needed more time with our family. At the time, Joe's mom was going through cancer treatments, and I had a nephew who passed away, and we needed that time with family. And both of our employers, I mean, just it was not working. Yeah. And so we just decided that we were both going to quit our jobs and we were going to do this. And I think Joe had always talked about taking his master's exam, but there was never a push behind it. And I think when we saw how much our family needed us at that time and we couldn't have that time, that was the push he needed. So he studied for his test, he passed, and a couple months later we decided to start.
Yeah. So now what, 2 years, 3 years?
We're on year 3, so
Year
2
3.
full years in.
Nice. And how's it been?
It has been amazing. We couldn't have asked for a better community to do this in. So like I said, we didn't grow up here.
Yeah.
We really only knew a few people from the kids' school, and that was it. Yeah. I was working with student exchange, but I worked from home. I mean, people didn't know who I was.
Yeah.
And people really didn't know who he was. And so we really had to dive in, but this community just embraced it and supported us. And it has been the best thing we could have done.
Awesome. So you talk about not really knowing people, right? You're starting a business. You just moved here. So how did you get involved, or how did you start getting your name out there?
The chamber.
Okay.
So we opened our doors January 1. That first Wednesday of January, Joe and I both went to the business exchange and met Wendell and started just joining and doing things and being part of the community. And I guess that's what's been good for us, is that Joe can be out working where I can be going to networking meetings and events and meeting people, doing one-on-ones and those types of things so we can get our name out there.
No, and that's a great team, right? That's a great team that you have. Like, hey, Joe, you're in the field. You're the master tech, right? You're the one fixing people's plumbing and stuff. I'll be out here creating the relationships and building the trust within the community and the community. And so it works great as a team, right? Now, I know Joe gets upset because he can't go on our lunch dates that we all have and get invited to, and the good barbecue, but we'll remember him, right? No. You can bring him a plate to go.
Yeah, he's like, don't ever go to Linky's without me.
Linky's is amazing, right? And so that's why when I set up with you, I'm like, hey, let's go have lunch. And I'm like, well, let's plan it for a week so Joe can have a lunch break and then he can go right back to work and stuff. So, no, that's great. Getting involved. Chamber's amazing, right? That's where a lot of business owners get started. And I tell them, like, hey, go to the Chamber Wednesday card exchange. It's free, right? And then get plugged in. And that's what you do. You plug into the different things, right, that our community are doing, the chamber, whether networking groups, and just out there creating all these relationships. And I know you said earlier that, you have a psychology background and to plumbing, but it does help because it helps you navigate people, customers, calming them down and things like that, right? And so you can still use that as a business owner. So what has been the biggest challenge for you as a business owner, you think?
I don't want to jinx us, but this has been pretty smooth sailing for us. I think a lot of times it's with getting material and the cost of material going up. We always wanted to be a company that people could afford. Joe saw in those big business, how much people do charge, and we didn't want to be that for people. But as times go on, material is just so expensive, and all of that, adds up. And so I think, being able to price right so we're doing well business wise, but also be affordable for people as well.
Yeah, and that's the hard part because you don't control that, right? Inflation, government, whoever you want to point the finger to, the companies you're buying it from, they decide to go up, and you have to navigate those waters and educate the consumers. Like, hey, it's not us; it's the companies that we're getting. Trust me, we're looking at all these companies to try and get affordable option. But sometimes these companies, they all compete with each other and they all get on the same playing field, right? So that is hard. So how do you educate the client? Like, hey, it's not us, so don't point the blame at us, to where they can still say, okay, they feel confident in using you and things like that.
I think because there are times where Joe will be, okay, here are your options. We can do this way, we can try to cut costs here. But if we go with this, it might not hold up as well as if we were to go with this one here. But giving them options to let them know, or let's say it's a slab leak. So this is your tunneling option. This is your option if we were to go straight through the floor, and trying to give them pricing that then they can make that choice, on what they can afford.
Yeah, and that's a great way, because some companies just say, hey, here's your $10,000 quote. This is how it is, or it's not, right? And when you give people options, you leave it up to them to decide. They want to put a Band-Aid on the repair because maybe they can't afford it right now and they can afford it in 6 months. But at least you give them the options, and then one that works, they can point the blame at you, right? Like, hey, you remember you wanted the Band-Aid instead of fixing it the right way, and I told you you're going to call us in 6 months? And then they understand, oh, yeah, I do remember that. No worries. But that builds the trust when you give them options versus saying, it's this way or the highway type thing.
Well, and we just had one the other day where they needed to have a whole new valve put in, and it's spendy, but Joe was able to find them another option that cut it in half, and Joe felt confident that valve was still going to do the job that it needed to do. And so in that way, they were happy. But we explained the cost, because sometimes you don't realize how much one valve can be, and so we just had to educate and tell people this is why.
That's awesome. So what sets you apart from other companies out there? Because just like a real estate agent, there's tons of other real estate agents out there, and I have to set myself apart from them in order to be hired, right? So what sets y'all apart, maybe that you've heard of or seen? Because I'm sure Joe's gone to homes and say, well, so-and-so said that it was going to do it this way or be this much. Like, how do y'all set the gap and the difference between people?
I think the main thing, we answer our phone. We will respond to you. I don't know how many times we'll have people call us and they'll say, you are the first company to A, answer the phone, or B, call us back.
Yeah.
And that makes it hard, because there are so many companies out there that don't do that. And so then it gives plumbers a bad name. And so I think just communicating. And even throughout the process, Joe has noticed too, there's been so many times he's went on a call and no one has ever explained to the customer what they're doing. Or if he's doing, a cameraing the line, he's going to let the homeowner watch so they can see what he's seeing. And not all companies do that.
So he's transparent with everything. So then that way he builds the trust and say, look, this is what I'm seeing, and you're seeing it now. It's not like I'm making this up, and this is why it's $5,000. Look at where it's at, right? Look where the break in the line is, or whatever it is. No, that's awesome. So, Brian, biggest challenge was materials and how you overcome that and educate people. It's been a blessing for you in business, right? In the community. So where's Rhead Plumbing going? What's the next step?
I don't know. We enjoy where we're at. There are times where it's like, man, we wish we had, 2, 3 other techs so that we can, make sure that we're getting everyone that is calling. But at the same time, we enjoy being just him and I, and we get to go do what we want to do. And people know when they call us, they're going to get Joe. They're going to get that level of expertise. So I don't know, what the future holds for us, but I just know that we have really a lot of support here.
Yeah, no, it's great. And so where do y'all service? So what kind of areas are you servicing? How far out do y'all go?
We prefer the Wylie area, but at the very beginning, we were just kind of taking whatever we could get just to get our name out there. So we have a pod of people like in the Denton area that still call us, and we've got a pod in Dallas, so we will go further out, but we prefer to be local.
Yeah.
is ideal. Yeah. But if we get a referral for somewhere else, we're going to go. And a lot of times it's because, my neighbor had you. We saw your truck out there, and they called from that.
And I think, as a business owner, a lot of times we want to serve everybody, try to help everybody, but sometimes it doesn't make sense in business wise. Well, one thing that I love about y'all is, like you mentioned, you work Monday through Friday. You don't take late night calls or emergency calls, right? And that's your business model, and it works, and it's working great because you want that time for the kids, for the family, for yourselves, right? So how do you navigate those waters? Because not a lot of people match up with that, and they just want to do all and be all, and me included, right? Yeah. I sometimes want to be in all places, and I have to learn, no, I need to dial it back to have that time.
That was just important to us from the very beginning. We just decided we were not going to be available 24/7. And I think because both of us in our previous jobs, we were having to be available 24/7, and we saw the negative effects that had on our family, not being able to be fully present at a soccer game because we had to answer the phone or, go out on a call at 10 o'clock at night. And so that was just important at the very beginning. There are times where we will work late. Like if somebody calls and they really have an emergency and we don't have anything else going on, he's going to go do it. Or if it's a weekend and we're really not doing anything, he will go do it if someone really needs it done. But it's not something that we make a habit of. Yeah. And it kind of was like yesterday, we had somebody who in the past probably would have needed to go out, but it was like, no, we're spending time with the kids. We had church, we were doing our normal Sunday things. And it was like, unfortunately, this one's just going to have to be no.
Yeah. And as a business owner, you have to have those standards in the beginning. I love how y'all started it in the beginning of your business, right? Because you can carry that on, but it takes a lot of faith too, to be able to do no, we're turning away business. Oh my God. What if we don't have business next week? And thank God y'all have been doing amazing things and been blessed, right? So, but it's great setting that foundation in the very beginning.
And I think that's why I told Joe, we have to start it from day one, because if we try to implement it years down the road, people are going to be used to us answering the phone or going out and doing that. Whereas now we'll have people who might call or text and they'll say, I know you're not working on the weekend. I was just thinking about this now. Give me a call Monday morning so we can get this on the schedule. Yeah. Or if we are on vacation, they know that, they respect that, and then we get them on the schedule when we get back. And there has been no negative around that. Yeah. People just know that's how we are.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. So if somebody who's wanting to start a business, another plumber or another business owner, what are maybe 2 things you can share with them on how to get started and how to start their business?
I think just meeting with other business owners, it doesn't even have to be in your industry, but another small business. I think that's kind of where we struggled at the beginning, because I was trying to do it all on my own. And, I didn't know who's a good accountant or who's a good person to go through this. So maybe trying to meet with those people ahead of time just to help you navigate a little bit at the beginning. But don't be scared to just jump in. And that's really what we did. We jumped in. Yeah. And just did it. And you're going to make mistakes, but you learn from them as you go, and you move forward.
You got to take the leap of faith, right? At some time. How was it taking that leap of faith? Like, what did that look like?
It was scary. I mean, I'll be honest. So my previous job was on a year contract. So every year I had to re-sign my contract. So my contract had ended in September. And so I had September through January 1 I wasn't working, so I wasn't getting a paycheck. I was just prepping everything so that, we could do that. But it was scary. We both had no jobs, and we were like, is our phone going to ring? And, it was like we put everything that we had into this. Yeah. And of course, that first month, it was January, and sometimes January can be a slow month for plumbing anyways. And so when we needed to, decide what we were doing to move forward,
Yeah.
it was scary.
Yeah.
It was
Definitely.
scary.
It is, but you have to have that faith. You have to be able to take that extra leap of faith, right? And just go all in, because if you don't, and if you're on that spectrum of being scared or half 1 foot in and 1 foot out,
Yeah.
it's never going to take off, or you're never going to be able to say, would it have worked? Right? No, so that's awesome. So how can people get a hold of you, Jen? If they're having plumbing issues, how can they get a hold of you?
I think it easiest is on Facebook. We're just Rhead Plumbing LLC, and on Google.
Yeah.
All of our information is there. And we are posting, jobs that we've done so that people can see the work that we go behind it. And, when we are using dig crews, they can see how well, we have high standards, and we want to make sure that the people that we're using are going to live up to that as well. So Facebook, Google.
Yeah. Awesome. And the reviews are amazing.
Yes.
Yes. So, guys, I've used Joe and Jennifer many times, not only in our personal house, but our rental properties and things, and they do an amazing job. So before I let you go, what does Jen like to do for fun?
I love country music and camping. So like outdoors, just like relaxing and listening to music. Yep.
Yeah. Country music?
Yes.
Who's your favorite artist?
I go back and forth, but I just more of like the old school, and not even really old school, but I guess old school now. But like Rascal Flatts, back in there. Whereas Joe's like really old country, so he likes the prime country. If you're on Sirius XM, that's his thing. But
cool. Favorite food in Wylie?
And I would never call myself a barbecue person, but Lanky's has changed that for me.
Yes. It's amazing. And it's just straight barbecue, right?
Yes.
They don't have all the fancy stuff. It's like, if you want good straight barbecue,
Yes.
it's Lanky's.
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome, Jim. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story a little bit, and how people can get a hold of you. So, guys, if y'all need anything plumbing-wise, be sure to give them a call, right? Monday through Fridays. We're going to respect the nights and the emergency calls. But no, truly, they do an amazing job. So if you ever need a plumber in town, be sure to reach out to them.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.